Good evening. My name is Marguerite Herman, and this evening of information and forums for Laramie County offices is brought to you by the League of Women Voters. We welcome everyone who's here. We welcome everyone who will be watching this later on YouTube, and we especially welcome everybody who's going to find this information helpful as they go to the polls. This is the fourth primary we've been doing for the primary elections. We have one more on Thursday. We're at the county fairgrounds. We're in the Buckle Club. It's upstairs at the exhibition hall. We'll be back here on Thursday evening to do the races for state treasurer and state auditor. So if you can't attend that, again, watch for it on YouTube. Tonight, everything tonight will be on YouTube. We'll have it posted by tomorrow. We hope everyone finds this information useful. And I want to thank the Laramie County Fair Board for making this this facility available. It really is nice to have it at the county fair. And early voting continues, just to let you know, in the county building atrium, and you can get a paper absentee ballot from the county clerk's office. Also get information and how and where to register to vote. The primary day is August 21st. You can find out the polling places, again, on the county clerk's website. General election is November 6th. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization open to all that works to help people get involved in their government, to be informed and to vote. We hope these forums help provide some information, but we urge people to check out the candidates' materials and to contact them with other questions. Wyoming, just to let you know, the Wyoming League of Women Voters has written what we call principles for integrity in campaign. And I have copies on the table over there. They look like this. And just briefly, we hope what they do is give people just one more yardstick on how to evaluate candidates in their campaign. So take a look at those. There are 5 principles for campaign integrity. We also have brochures about choosing a candidate, again, just giving people help, what we hope are good suggestions on how to evaluate candidates in their campaigns. We also have rosters over there for the statewide offices, for the legislative offices, and then we have a list of everybody who's running. In case you, tonight as you're listening to people, we have a list of all the county candidates as well. So for tonight, we're going to start again with this open mic stump speech period. We'll start with the commissioners, and then we'll go to coroner, county clerk, district attorney, sheriff, treasurer, assessor, and clerk of district court. Oh, yes? No, we have to start with the assessor and treasurer. We have to start with the assessor and treasurer? Yeah. Okay.
They're, I promise.
Oh, okay. Promises were made, and and promises will be kept. So the order is going to start with the county assessor and treasurer, who are running unopposed, by the way, and the reason why they're not in this. Right, okay, so just hold on, just a second. Just as a word. So we're only doing the primary races that are contested in the primary. And so the county assessor and treasurer and clerk of district court are unopposed both in the primary and the general. So they'll be coming up all by themselves. The rest will have some opponents who have been invited. We hope they'll be there. So we will start with the current, I guess we'll start with the treasurer. Apparently the treasurer's ready to go. So we'll have Trudy Isley come up, and she'll have 1 to 2 minutes to tell us about her campaign.
Thank you. I have another commitment, so I am very glad that she let me speak first. I'm Trudy Isley, your current Laramie County treasurer, running unopposed. I have a staff of 16 in my office, and I have 3 departments: accounting and administration, motor vehicle, and property tax. We are the keeper of the funds for Laramie County. Every dollar that comes in and out of Laramie County goes through my office. I pride myself and my staff in their excellent customer service. I know it gets a little busy sometimes in our motor vehicle department, and we try very hard to get you in and out quickly. I have a couple ideas up my sleeve for the coming years of trying to streamline the motor vehicle process, and I'm working on that with the IT department. And like I said, I'm running unopposed, but I would appreciate your vote on August 21st. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next up, Assessor Kenneth Guile. Is he here tonight? No, he indicated he could not come. Okay. And then we'll go to Clerk of District Court, Diane Sanchez. She again is also running unopposed.
Thank you. I am Diane Sanchez, and I am also currently your Clerk of District Court. I have been in the office for 28 years. The Clerk of Court's main statutory duty is to preserve the court record and to make sure that we have accurate court records. We have many things that are happening in our office right now with technology. One of the biggest discussions that is happening is electronic public access and what records should be out on the internet for people to review without or with a cost. And so that is some of what we are working on right now. I really do feel like I have the knowledge, the experience, and the commitment for this position, and I would really appreciate your vote for the primary. Thank you.
Okay, so what we'll do now is in alphabetical order. We will go through the ballot very briefly. Oh, and I forgot to mention, and just a reminder, you go to the county clerk's website and print out a sample ballot, put in your address, and you can get a ballot, and you can have your choice between the Democratic ballot, Republican, or the unaffiliated. But I have to warn you, the unaffiliated ballot is pretty thin because all they have is the city council candidates on it. So, you're sure welcome to go down there and print it out and look it over before you go to the polls. Okay, so we'll backing right up to county commissioner. There are 7 people running for county commission, 1 on the Democratic ballot and 6 on the Republican, and they have a chance to come up here and just address people briefly, and we'll start with Emily Hasenauer. Again, this is alphabetical.
Alphabetical A, starts with an M, but thank you for having this forum at the Women League of Voters. You've did it many years and they've done a great job. Emily's a Republican, and I'll be running for Laramie County Commissioner. Be bringing a common sense attitude to the commissioner's seat. I'm for limited government, and I believe in Republican platforms. I've served on the Republican committee for 8 years, and that is where you're going to find some of your better candidates that monthly meet and they put forth resolutions to hold the Republican Party accountable. I'll be signing a no new tax pledge and promising not to raise your taxes. I will try to give back some of my salary like I did before to a nonprofit. So I think good county commissioners always offer that phone number so you can vet us. We got like a 15-second commercial here when we need a minute. So 307-640-4248 is always the best way to vet candidates. Afterwards, you can get a flyer. I've got my campaign manager here. She's 10 years old, little JoJo. If you'd stand up, just say hello. I'd like to thank her for all her help this year. Look forward to serving back on the Laramie County Commission. I was there for 2 years. Again, I'm strong in the Constitution. I'm pro-military, pro-Second Amendment. I appreciate the opportunity to be up here, and I appreciate you going to the polls early or vote on August 21st. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, one of the incumbent candidates, Linda Heath, also a Republican.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to come to the forum here tonight. Thank you to the voters who are showing up and taking the interest as well. As Marguerite said, I am one of the incumbents that is running this year. I am a 27-year resident of Laramie County. Tricky. And the Air Force brought me here, although I did test out Wyoming for a couple of years when I went to college up at Torrington. You know, as an incumbent, it's a little bit different running as an incumbent than it is when you're running and you haven't been in office. Your time is split between the job that you were elected to do as well as campaigning. But you know, one of the things that keeps coming as I talk to the voters and talk to people that I've dealt with in the past 4 years is I am the commissioner who will listen. When nobody else wants to talk or nobody else wants to listen, I am the one who will listen. And I have delved into more road issues than I ever thought possible. But that is one of my goals, is that I listen to what your concerns are. Maybe we don't reach a solution that's favorable to you, but I learn and you learn, and we work together to make Laramie County a better county. And in all honesty, you folks here in this room, and the kids that are out at the fair here, and the residents of Laramie County, you are the strength of Laramie County.
Thank you very much. Gunner is a challenger Republican.
Thank you, Marguerite. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and the League of Women Voters for putting this on. My name is Gunner Malm. I'm a 6th-generation Laramie County resident and small business owner. I'm a local real estate agent by trade, and I'm an agent owner at Caldwell Banker, the Property Exchange. I'm a past president of the Cheyenne Board of Realtors, past president-elect of the Wyoming Association of Realtors, public policy chair both locally and statewide. During that time, I fought against things like sales tax on services, sales tax on the transfer of real property, as well as to protect rural development loans for our small communities and housing in those areas. 60% of Laramie County's population is under the age of 45, and myself, I'm a 34. I turned 35 the day of the primary, so it could be a really good birthday. But I'm a city resident and small business owner, but I have deep ties and roots in eastern Laramie County. So I think that I'm well suited to represent the entire population, from young to old to agrarian to urban, and I think and would appreciate your vote on August 21st for Laramie County Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, Tom Scranton. There you go, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Scranton. I'm an ordinary citizen. I'm not a politician. I've never held an elected office. And I have no hidden agenda. I'm not beholden to any individual group or special interest. I've made no campaign promises. I am retired, and I do have all the time necessary to devote to this position. I'm a Wyoming native. I'm a graduate of the University of Wyoming with a degree in accounting, and my advanced degree is from Pacific Coast Banking School. I have been active in this community for 43 years. I'm a past board member of the Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce, past board member of the Cheyenne-Laramie County Economic Development Joint Powers Board, past president of the Cheyenne Kiwanis Club Foundation, a 41-year CFD volunteer, and past president of HEALS. I do support the Second Amendment. I'm a member of the NRA. I spent 23 years in banking in this community. I had ownership interest in two local businesses, and I spent 8 years with the City of Cheyenne Building Safety Department. I would be more than pleased, thank you very much, I would be more than pleased if you would let me serve you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Troy Thompson. And he's another incumbent running for re-election as a Republican.
Thank you, Marguerite. Thanks for allowing me to be here this evening. My name is Troy Thompson. I'm a veterinarian in Cheyenne. I'm a youth football coach. I've owned Tri-State Veterinary Clinic for the past 20 years. Grew up in Laramie County, graduated from Seton Catholic High School, went out east to Cornell University, got a degree in animal science, went to Washington State University, got my doctorate of veterinary medicine. Was very lucky to be able to come back here and start my veterinary career. I've also been a commissioner for the past 8 years on Laramie County, and I am the longest serving commissioner on our commission. And I am asking for re-election for my third term. And here is why. There's unbelievably exciting things going on in Laramie County. When you look at Magpul Industries, Microsoft, the oil play, all of these wonderful things, it's an exciting time to be a part of this. But with all those things, with all that progress, With all this development comes challenges, and it's those challenges that I want you to think about when you go to the ballot, because those challenges are serious, and those serious challenges need serious leaders. And they need the leaders with the experience, the attitude, and the ability to get the right things done for the people of Laramie County. So I would ask for your vote on August 21st. I appreciate you being here tonight, and I thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you.
Boyd Wiggum. See, Boyd, I know he's here. Oh, there you go. All right, thank you. And Boyd is a Republican challenger.
Thank you, Marguerite. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting this event and for making the recording available online. My name is Boyd Wiggum. I am a conservative Republican from Laramie County, offering to serve you, Laramie County. I'm basing my platform and my desire to run because I think there are some exciting things ahead for Laramie County. We're on the cusp of crossing a 100,000 population, but with that come both opportunities and challenges, as Troy just mentioned. And I believe I am prepared to handle that. The basis for my campaign and my way of thinking is quite conservative. First, I believe that the county needs to focus on keeping the main thing, focus on core competencies. Secondly, I believe that we need to make sure that the county is not the problem as we are facing growth and seeking economic development, meaning keeping taxes low, minimizing regulation, and making sure that the bureaucracy, the permitting process operates at the speed of business and not at the speed of government. And finally, the reason I'm running and the basis for my qualification is the idea that we need to keep our eye on the future. My background includes the fact that I was raised on a farm. I understand Laramie County and rural Laramie County. I now live in the city. I run a law practice downtown. I am, okay, and I'm basically a lifetime fifth generation Laramie County resident. Thank you.
Thanks, and just as a reminder, all these candidates for county commission will have their own form, so they'll be able to finish up if they didn't get to all their speeches right now. And now Lee Filer is the Democrat. He is the lone Democrat running for his party's nomination for county commission.
Thanks, Marguerite, League of Women Voters. You know, I think we need to give another round of applause because we have 6 great candidates over on the Republican side. Well, I'm not going to give you a big, huge speech of why I'm going to be running. That's why we have these questions up here also. But I want to give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm Lee Filer. I was born here at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. I was a military brat. I lived in so many different places all over the world. I've been all over the world. I've lived in so many different states. And as a matter of fact, I was working on a farm when I was in high school, and I turned 18. I says, man, I got to get out of here. I got to go back to Wyoming. I was in Pennsylvania at the time. So I get in a pickup, an old pickup, $3,000, and I come back to Wyoming where my roots are at. So I get here, I get a job, I stay in a hotel for a month, and I finally buy my first house and I start my life. And I love this place so much that I think everything in my house is actually Wyoming now, but my parents, you know, instilled that part of me where the hunting, the fishing, the life of living in Laramie County, the life of living in Wyoming is so wonderful that we need to, especially at all levels of government, maintain that lifestyle for everybody. And I believe from the lowest level to the highest level, we need to research all of our candidates. I'm not a firm believer in party. I'm the first one not to fight a party. I don't care if it's the Republican side or Democrat side. I believe in independent thinking. I believe that you guys are the ones that come to us for your problems, and we need to help you solve those problems and actually move forward. There's also a lot of different things that are going on in the county government. I'll just call it that.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to the coroner candidates real quickly here. Rebecca Reed. And this is one of those races where there are only Republicans running, so just the primary is going to be the election in this case. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Rebecca Reed. I'm originally from Panama City, Florida. That's where my death investigation career began. I've been doing this now for 11 years. I've been here in Cheyenne, Wyoming for almost 5 years now. So I love to call Cheyenne, Wyoming my home. So I want to tell you the reason why I'm running for coroner. The reason why I'm running for coroner is because I want to continue serving the deceased and their family members in this county. I feel that I have the compassion, the integrity, the respect that the families need during their time of loss. Thank you, and I would love to continue to serve as Laramie County's coroner.
Thank you. Next on the list is Marty Luna, but he told us that he was not going to be here tonight, so we'll go to Bob Martin.
So I'm asked continually, why do I do this job? Why am I running for coroner? I've been doing the job for several years. Not long after I started, I caught a case of a 92-year-old lady who died on her 92nd birthday. After the original assessment, it was clear that neglect had played a part in her death. I worked the case for a couple days, and then I went into our current coroner and asked why it seemed like no one really cared about the case. And he said, because you haven't made them care about the case. So I took that ball and I ran with it, and I've been running with it ever since. I think this is a great job. I can't imagine doing anything else, so I'm running for Laramie County Coroner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again, the coroner's candidates will have a chance to come up and have their own forum a little bit later. So moving on to county clerk, we have 2 Republicans running. Once again, it's going to be a case where the primary is going to be the election. We'll start with Deborah Lee.
Hello, my name is Deborah Lee, and I'm your Laramie County Clerk. I've called Cheyenne my home for the past 42 years, and I too am here because of the military. My father served in the Air Force for 33 years and retired from Warren Air Force Base. I'm blessed to have both parents in Cheyenne, and at the age of 90, they're having the new life experience of working on a campaign. I graduated from high school in England and have degrees in journalism and administration. I was appointed county clerk in June 2016, following the unfortunate passing of longtime clerk Debbie Lathrop. I have extensive knowledge and years of experience in administration and management. At the Secretary of State's office, I worked with election laws and with all of the county clerks, who are an invaluable resource to this day. Internationally, I've helped countries organize and conduct elections. I've managed large budgets and complex projects. When I answered the call to service in this position 2 years ago, I pledged to bring a fresh perspective and energy to the office. In my 2 years as your county clerk, we've accomplished a lot as a team. We've launched new and innovative programs, created and implemented projects that save taxpayers money, and we continually work to improve services and access to information. It's been my great honor to have served as your county clerk, and I would appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve.
And the other Republican running for county clerk, Pam Blick.
Good evening. I'm Pam Glick, and I'm proud to stand before you as a candidate for Laramie County Clerk with 3 promises to you. I promise to always greet you with a smile. I promise to always be honest with you. And I promise to work very hard for you, the Laramie County citizens. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's a great opportunity to get our message out to the public. First, I want to make a difference and improve the customer service at the county clerk's office, both internally and externally. I would bring to the Laramie County Clerk's office over 30 years of human resources and budgetary experience. Secondly, I want the clerk's office to be far more transparent with the public. If anyone becomes frustrated because of paperwork hurdles or administrative delays in the clerk's office, or because they don't know where to start, I want to know about it. I pledge to you that if elected Laramie County Clerk, I won't hide behind layers of staff and bureaucracy. At the end of the day, we're all neighbors and we all deserve a government that works for us. Thirdly, I will have an open door policy. I believe that you deserve to have your questions answered in a friendly, neighborly manner. As someone who has spent the better part of life working in the public sector, I know the importance of treating everyone with respect. Again, I'm Pam Glick. I'm running for Laramie County Clerk, and I humbly ask for your vote.
So the next office candidates for district attorney will start with the Democrat Lynn Boak. I'm sorry.
I just realized my speech is way too long. I'll try to shorten it. My name is Lynn Boak, and I'm running for district attorney for 3 reasons. First, I have the experience, judgment, and integrity to run the DA's office. I was the deputy DA in Denver for 5 years, and then where I tried everything ranging from drunk driving cases to murders. I ultimately joined my husband here in 1983, so I've been in Cheyenne for 36 years. Unlike a lot of the people here, I am not a native. I was not born here, but I got here as soon as I could. I've served on the Animal Shelter Board and the Board of the Cheyenne Animal Shelter Foundation. I serve on the Artistic Advisory Committee of the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra. I was the commissioner for this judicial district on the Board of Officers and Commissioners of the Wyoming State Bar. And I'm a past president of the Laramie County Bar Association. I served my community, but I want to do more. I would certainly improve the functioning of the DA's office. I have a lot of ideas that I've been working on, and I would have an open door for anyone who wanted to talk to me. People should not be, well, I asked for your vote in the primary, and on November 6th, I don't think I'm opposed.
No, and just as a word that there's one Republican and one Democrat running. So for the primaries, it's uncontested. Both candidates are going to advance and represent their party on the general election ballot. And again, the legal women voters will have another round of forums after the primary in August, later this month. So we'll now have the Republican candidate for district attorney in Grant Manlove.
Thank you, Marguerite and the League of Women Voters. I'm your Republican candidate for district attorney. And as I've gone door to door, I want to answer the questions for you that people have posed to me. I'm running because I'm concerned about the safety of our community and most especially about our children. I stand for accountability. I'm motivated to seek justice on behalf of the state of Wyoming. I'm experienced. The last time I was in a criminal court on a criminal case was this morning. The last time I prosecuted a homicide case was June of 2015 in Laramie County, and that resulted in a conviction. I was appointed in the federal district court to be a special assistant United States attorney. I prosecuted high-intensity drug traffic crimes throughout the District of Wyoming. And I was in the district attorney's office for 5 years. I prosecuted just about every kind of case there is, from game and fish poaching to crimes against children cases. And my perspective on the criminal justice system in Wyoming is that it works well in most regards. It could be better, and it most especially could be better here in Laramie County. And I humbly ask for your vote so that I can serve you and accomplish just that.
We'll have another look at these candidates after the primary. So, and now in the final round robin, we'll do the candidates for sheriff. And in this case, there are 2 Republicans running and 1 Democrat. So this will be a contest that will have a primary and a general election. So we'll start with Greg Taylor. Is Greg Taylor here? Yes, okay. Come on down.
My name is Greg Taylor. I appreciate the League of Women Voters giving us this opportunity to come up in front of everyone. I am not a politician, I will tell you that straight up. My concerns are very simple: public safety. We have a situation with the state of Colorado south of us, with the sanctuary policies, the legalized marijuana. We're beginning to get the overflow of that. A lot of other crimes. I'm currently an investigator with the state of Wyoming, so I have frontline experience with the cases that are coming up. My platform is simple. I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Wyoming. I will apply all laws fairly and equitably. I will make safety of the citizens primary. I will emphasize recruitment and training of individuals on a national level. I will bring them in. I will also keep training up so that the deputies are not out on the streets with inadequate training to address the problems that they're facing on a daily basis. I'm Greg Taylor, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
The other Republican candidate for sheriff is the incumbent, Danny Glick.
Hi, I'm Danny Glick. I'm the Laramie County Sheriff. I've been at this law enforcement in Laramie County for 37 plus years. 22 years I drove a patrol car around Laramie County. The last almost 16 I've been sheriff. I've been asked, why are you running? They put a caveat in there again, but I'm going to take that word out. There are many reasons. The easy reason is because of continuity. We've got a lot of projects that are going, i.e. if you look at the new jail. We also have some programs in the hopper that are going to benefit the taxpayers of Laramie County, and that's a 24/7 program where we make second-time DUI offenders responsible for their own care and upkeep, not the taxpayers. But there's one other reason, and the most important reason for me, is I live here. Laramie County is my home. The people that the sheriff's office serves are my friends, my family, and that's why I'm running again. The Laramie County Sheriff's Office and law enforcement in this county is my life. Again, I'm Danny Glick. I'd appreciate your vote on August 21st. Thank you.
For this part of the evening is the Democratic candidate for sheriff, Jess Fresquez. Is he here tonight? Well, he'll be on your ballot, so it's up to you to, I guess, find information about him and make your decision. And you know that I guess it'll depend on which ballot you get actually for the primary. So we'll take a couple of minutes to get things set up here for the county commissioners contest. And then we'll go through, I'll describe the format of that when we get going. So thank you very much, and we're just going to take a couple of minutes here. Okay, all the candidates in their seats. As a word of introduction, just to let you know, we have 5 at-large seats on our county commission. This year, 3 seats are open. Next, in 2 years, the other 2 will be open, so they're sort of staggered. The terms are for 4 years, and there is no term limit. And it is a partisan race, so people run as Republican or Democrat. You can see on their name cards the R and the D to show which primary ballot they will be on. And I guess that's it. We'll just go and get started. Just to let you know how things are going to go. We're going to start with a minute and a half to introduce themselves. Each one will have a chance to do that, and then we'll go into the questions. And we gave them only one question to start out with, which was the top 3 issues facing the county and your approach to them. And after that, we have other questions that we've written down. If you have a question that comes up, we have cards and pencils on the table there, with the legal and voters materials. And if it could bump one of our questions off the list. Just make sure it has to be able to be asked of every candidate. And what we'll do is we'll stagger the beginning of it. So we'll start with Mr. Hasenauer, and then in the next round with that top 3 issues, we'll start with Ms. Heath, etc. And we'll go down the line. And after each question, after a minute and a After a minute and a half, we're going to have an optional 15 seconds that we'll just throw it out, and people can take that 15 seconds to either, maybe they've heard something from another candidate, they want to respond to that, or they'll have something to add themselves. So in addition to the minute and a half, everyone will have an optional 15 seconds to add on. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, we'll have a minute and a half for people to introduce themselves, or actually they can use the opening statement any way they want. Lindy Kirkbride over there is our timer, and she'll let you know when your time is winding down. And we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Hazenauer. So go ahead and start when you're ready.
Thank you, Margaret. Emily Hazenauer, grew up on a farm in Nebraska. Recently my brother passed away. I'm involved in an LLC down there with the rest of my family. I've lived here 30 years, and Laramie County is definitely home. When I first moved here, we helped start a Pentecostal church, and I've been in it ever since. I've served on the Republican committee, as I mentioned early. We recently passed a resolution and pushed it through the legislation to get Stand Your Ground bill passed, working with the sponsors, Anthony Bouchard, and taking the 60 letters up to the House and the Senate. Lobbying for bills and getting them passed is a lot of work. I have about 3 under my belt that I think is very important. Texting while driving. We moved the petition work from 10 days to referendum voting to 20. And I enjoyed serving on the board for 2 years for Laramie County Commissioner. I had a 100% record when I was on there. I will protect you guys under the law. That's the Constitution of the United States. I'm going to be a hawk on spending. Like I mentioned earlier, I've signed a no tax pledge. I want to reduce regulations and save the taxpayers' money. That's what my forte is, being a people person, being connected with the public, getting the public involved with Laramie County government. We've set records of 120 people at those meetings. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to express my points of view and to get reelected this August.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Heath. Minute and a half.
Good evening. As I alluded to earlier, I'm a 27-year resident here of Laramie County. The Air Force brought me here. I am a graduate of Eastern Wyoming College and Chadron State College, raised on a farm south of Chadron, Nebraska, so this area is kind of like old home week when I visit with the residents out in the county. I understand agriculture, understand ranching and farming. Have been a 4-H club member and leader, so as I watch these kids, knowing what they're going through this week, my heart's out there with them. I know what they're going through, as well as with the parents that are involved. I have been a small business owner, partnering with my husband, a retired Air Force spouse. Those experiences, and I was in the Air Force with my husband as active duty, have given me some background that I have found very valuable in the first 4 years that I have been a commissioner in emergency management, hospital administration, as well as IT. I have served and been a lifelong Republican here in the county. I've been a precinct committee woman. I've been the vice chairman, and I have served on the platforms and resolutions committee at state convention. That's where a lot of the ideas that your legislators use during the session come from, is from those grassroots platforms and resolutions at convention. I am also a member of the American Legion Post Auxiliary over in Pine Bluff, so my heart is with the military.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mullen.
Yes, again, I'm Gunnar Malm. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a 6th-generation Laramie County resident and real estate agent here in Cheyenne. Over the last decade, in my role as a realtor, I've not only helped businesses and homeowners find and sell property, but I've also been able to see why people choose to come to our community, and I've seen, unfortunately, why some choose to leave. I've also seen what hurdles businesses face, not only in my role as a realtor, but I serve on the City Planning Commission for the City of Cheyenne. So I've helped navigate items and navigate hurdles for businesses, homeowners, and consumers before they ever reach the commission or a courtroom. And so that experience, I believe, lends itself well to sit on the county commission. I also want to see my friends and my generation return to Cheyenne. You know, I choose to live here for the quality of life that it presents. but we need to expand our workforce and make sure that we have the kind of jobs available to bring our younger generation back from college and have this be the place that they choose to call home as well, because I know many of them do want to return. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Scranton.
I'm a man of few words, and I feel like I've sufficiently introduced myself, and I choose not to bore you with a reiteration, except that I do want to emphasize I'm retired, and I do have the time for this. I have no experience as a county commissioner, but I believe an effective county commissioner is on-the-job training and having the right attitude. I believe I have those two attributes, and I would very much appreciate your support August 21st. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Again, my name is Troy Thompson, veterinarian here in town, youth football coach, married to Beth McNamee Thompson from Pine Bluffs. Together we have 8 kids, 2 of which are still in the house, so we're kind of getting to the trail end of the herd there. Your county commissioner for the past 8 years, the one with the most experience. During that 8 years, we have opened up our government, made it more transparent. We've put our meeting materials online for everybody to be able to see and review. We've started to videotape and live stream our meetings, and then we video archive them so you could watch them at any time. People will talk about open and transparent government. I would tell you that's what we've done in Laramie County. We've also tried to establish a very business-friendly culture. Producing this culture within our planning and development office of, hey, we are here to help you through your projects within our regulations, rather than being here to stop your projects with our regulations. I've also been a big proponent of private property rights. And again, I'm asking your vote on August 21st. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wiggum.
Okay, once again, Boyd Wiggum. I am from Laramie County, here to serve Laramie County. I am a product of a farm north of Hillsdale. I grew up on a cattle and wheat farm, and as a youngster I was able to come to this fair, and thanks to this fair I was able to afford to graduate from the University of Wyoming with a degree in agricultural economics free of debt. So this week is really important to me and to many young people like me. After the University of Wyoming, I came back home. I worked in a grain elevator. I helped pile sugar beets. I helped my grandfather on a farm before I eventually sold farm crop insurance in eastern Laramie County. So I understand rural Laramie County. It's part of me. I'm part of it. I left home, as many do, to attend graduate school where I studied economic development planning at the University of Nebraska before getting distracted, meeting my wife, and moving on to attend law school because I was so passionate about property rights and protecting those. After several years in Virginia following my graduation from William and Mary School of Law, I came back here, was able to serve as a policy analyst and staff attorney at a think tank, and I now own my own law practice downtown. So I live here in the city, and I know the city, and I'd appreciate you thinking of me as somebody who knows both rural and urban Laramie County.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Filer.
Yes, thank you. Again, Lee Filer, and a little bit more about me. I'm a native resident here at Laramie County. I also served many years as a veteran in the Wyoming Air National Guard. I'm a former legislator. I'm also the chairman of the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, which is really near and dear to my heart because my daughter, Caitlin, has a developmental disability, so I'm really active in that community. I'm also the vice local chairman of my union at the railroad for the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers. I'm married, and yes, Troy, you got me beat. I only got 6 kids. But again, I got 5 daughters and 1 little boy, and our favorite colors in our house are pink and purple, that's for sure. But you know, there's just, you know, all these candidates here, all of us here, we come from different walks of life and so much different diversity. We have so many good choices here in Laramie County, and I, for one, would love your guys' vote on November 6th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to start our round of questions. Thank you for passing the microphone with Ms. Heath. And we'll get to that first question that we asked everybody to address, which is the 3 top issues that you see for the county and how you would address them. And I know a minute and a half isn't much, but we did give you time to sort of focus in, and so if you could just give it, you know, your best shot for a minute and a half. 3 top issues and your And if you can only think of 2, then do those, but we're asking for 3, and so a minute and a half.
I think one of the, some of the top issues that we're looking at is the growth that we're seeing here in Laramie County, and it's not just here in Cheyenne. Cheyenne is growing out closer and closer into the rural areas, and our suburbs are, and subdivisions are getting closer and closer to our rural agricultural areas. As those areas impact each other, there's going to be more and more issues that are going to arise as to how do we manage the conflict, how do we manage the growth. Along with that, we have the energy development that for some crazy reason, we're the only county in the state that seems to have it right close into Cheyenne. Everybody else has been dealing with antelope and jackrabbits, and we're dealing with real live human beings that are being impacted by the energy development. You know, I think another issue that we need to be watching is along with this growth, we need to be looking at keeping good quality jobs available for the residents here in Cheyenne. And I don't mean just the youth, I mean our adults as well. You know, we've got to start our youth out, getting them used to the idea of a 9 to 5 or whatever the hour job is, and that they've got to show up. And you know, that's something that we all need to remember. We all need to show up and be part. And by being here tonight, you're showing up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Long.
Yes, so quickly out, I think our top 3 issues, or 3 of them, are workforce, infrastructure, and empowering entrepreneurs. So to start with workforce, anytime you're looking at site selection or our economic development bodies are looking at bringing companies to Laramie County or Cheyenne, one of the top priorities and things that they are looking for is, do we have the workforce to participate and fill the jobs that they're looking to bring? And unfortunately, in many cases, we have fallen short on that. So I think we need to look at what we can do to empower and bring back, work with the college to bring back trade schools, and do other things to expand the workforce in Laramie County. Infrastructure, that's a really broad topic. I'm sure the current commissioners will tell you they constantly get calls about roads, and those are huge and major issues, but we also need to look at expanding our definition of what infrastructure is. In the 21st century, access to high-speed internet is not only critical to Cheyenne and urban areas, but it's going to be critical to our rural farmers and ranchers for them to utilize the technology that's available and compete on the global scale. And then finally, we need to empower entrepreneurs and the next generation of entrepreneurs in Laramie County. The first $1 trillion company in the world was started in a garage. Many of Laramie County's most successful businesses were started in garages here in Laramie County. So we need to get back to having a nice balance of, yes, attracting those larger employers, but also getting out of the way and helping to prop up and expand entrepreneurship in Laramie County. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Scranton, 3 top issues.
Thank you. I believe our 3 top issues that we need to address are, number 1, land use issues, the growth in the energy development area, and as Gunnar talked about, ease of entry for economic development in our county. The first of which is land use. In my opinion, we simply have to do something about the recent train wrecks we've experienced, and I'm talking about the Granite Canyon gravel pit and the shooting range. I know these issues are emotional and they don't have a simple yes-no solution, but we need to find a balanced approach to protect private property rights while laying a foundation for future development in our county. Energy development, the biggest impact I see is with our roads, and I think we really have a problem with our roads. We have approximately 1,500 miles in Laramie County, and right now today as we're sitting here, we don't have enough money to maintain them properly. If this growth trend continues, how do we maintain our roads? But on the other hand, we want to be business friendly as a commission, as a county. But we have to address our roads. Do we find another revenue source? Do we cost share with industry? This issue needs a lot of attention. Ease of entry is the third challenge we have. Having spent 8 years with the city's building safety department, I think we need to focus on our planning and development processes and our building permit process. I believe in less government, and I believe in a business-friendly approach, and this issue will also get my attention. Sorry, I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. 3 issues.
You know, when you think about the vast array of things that county commissioners deal with, it's hard to pin down the top 3 things that we're dealing with. You've obviously got to talk about roads. 1,500 miles of roads in Laramie County, 1,200 are gravel, about 300 are paved. Coming up with a good pavement management system as well as a gravel management system has been crucial for us in doing that management. I think for the sake of talking about something different, I'm going to come up with a separate priority for my list here, and that is our hospital management. You know, we have gone into a hospital management services agreement with UC Health down in Fort Collins, and that has been a remarkable process to go through that and to see our evaluation of our hospital and what we need to do to move forward, and then trying to find the right partner to do that with. And I think we need to continue to make sure we stay on top of that and make sure we are engaged with Memorial Hospital of Laramie County, doing business at Cheyenne Regional Medical Center, and UC Health through that process. Lastly, I'd like to mention oil and gas development. And the Wyoming Oil and Gas Commission has made it abundantly clear that it is under their purview, but there are certain things that we can do. Road use agreement is probably the most important, getting these companies in to help that, to get them to help us with management of these roads. But I think the more important thing is to facilitate communication. And I think we've done that through our quarterly oil and gas meetings to get everybody in the room and say, listen, these are our issues. We may not have the ability to solve them, but at least we can talk about them and deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Witham.
Okay, thank you. Like my neighbor to the right here, although I think that the top 3 issues have probably been covered here, to try to expand the discussion and look at the scope of things that the county commission needs to deal with. I want to first talk about the issues of property rights as we urbanize. Laramie County is rapidly becoming an urban county. I'm from a rural area. As these two collide, especially when they're colliding on top of our oil and gas field, we need to focus on a more thorough, deeper look at property rights and how to defend property rights while allowing urbanization. Secondly, infrastructure, and particularly the budgetary effects of infrastructure. One of the things I think is looming on the horizon is I don't know how long we'll be able to count on state discretionary appropriations for our budget. So as we look at our expansion, our growing economy, we have to look at the challenges that are happening at the state level and prepare for worst case scenarios. And thirdly, I want to talk about one of the new things that the state legislature is entrusted county commissions with, and that's transparency. Not so much at the county level, but with the special districts and that are in Laramie County. And I'd like to focus, spend some time focusing on bringing more transparency to the other local governments that we have in the county. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Filer.
Yes, thanks. I think that 3 things have been talked about quite a bit also. I agree with a lot of what everybody's been saying, but one of them is diversity. Right now we have a county commission that is one of the best county commissions I've ever seen in my lifetime here in Laramie County. We have an older generation, we have a younger generation, we have women, we have men, we have Republicans, we have Democrats on this commission. What that does is it creates, with our county growing so much and it's being so much more diverse, we have a diverse commission that actually represents everybody. And I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the work, of course, of our incumbent county commissioners. I really want to thank you guys again for all the work you guys have been doing. But also, when we look at growth, it's one of the things Laramie County has, and actually the state of Wyoming, is we have one of the best foundations there is. We have a low tax base for business where they could want to relocate here, but we have to have an educated youth workforce in order for those businesses to want to be here. Yes, it's not only up to us as the county commissioners, but it's up to everybody in government. And my experience in the state legislature, we could probably build some more partnerships all the way up to the state level to help with those issues. Also, we need more productivity and better morale with our county employees right now. There's a lot of turnover in some departments. We need to start looking at it as county commissioners, because retention is sometimes a lot more cheaper than it is to hire and train more folks. And then we become a training grounds for other counties that are especially down south of us. So we really need to start looking at those policies and things like that to make sure our county employees are treated well and they get more production and better morale. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hazenauer will wrap up this question. 3 top issues.
Yes, thanks for the question. 3 top issues I think will hit home with the public here, and that is definitely property rights. The founding forefathers said if you love America, you'll want to own a piece of it. But then you will respect your neighbor's rights because they have them too. With our oil and gas putting new gas structures very close to residents, although it's 250 feet away, that's the rules in the law. We should try to extend the commissioner's advice to, if you own 600 acres, wouldn't it be better to put it further away from the private property owner? Because their foundation is set, it's already there. Property owners that are there first, that's what I represent first. Sometimes I've spoke against large companies coming in because of the property owner's rights. That is number one. Low tax structures and fixing the 6-penny sales tax projects. We should never have a special election. We should try to collect the sales tax within a 3-year period from the general election in November, get it collected in 3 years. Let's give the taxpayers a break for 5 years. That would be my resolution and solution to some of that. Putting some of the projects are at risk when you put one project with the needs. Also, Mike Enzi talked about the 80%. This is very important. Let's get the 80% done that we agree with as commissioners, then work on the 20% that we need to. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. The next round, we'll start with Mr. Malm. Okay, this is sort of a mouthful of a question, but stay with me. County residents have come to the commission to regulate placement or operations of development. The quarry and oil and gas development come to mind, to protect their health and quality of life. The commission responds that they don't have the authority, but here's the question. Should the commission seek the authority or advocate for county residents before state regulators, even if it means foregoing potential revenue for the county?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, and one that I've thought a lot about as I decided to make this run, and the different issues popped up with the shooting range and then the quarry. One of the great things, and the things that many of us love about Laramie County, is the vast and open nature and our ability to live rurally. But with that comes risks. When you purchase land next to large swaths of undeveloped land, you always run the risk of something that you're not maybe a fan of going up next door to you. And so it takes a delicate balance. And myself, I look to public safety as being the #1 driver of if I would advocate for one citizen against another. I don't think that that's necessarily the position of a commissioner to advocate for or against, pitting citizens against each other. The state has set itself up with the Oil and Gas Leasing Commission. Like Commissioner Thompson mentioned, the commission's role is very limited, and they can do their best as far as road use agreements and things like that, but expanding into advocating on behalf of citizens against other citizens, I don't think that that's something that I particularly would do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scranton, would you like me to repeat the question?
That was quite a mouthful, I'll tell you.
It was, and it's sort of getting to that push and pull between residents who are asking the commission to take action with health, safety, and quality of life when you have other development going on, the potential for economic development and other considerations that have been talked about here. Where do you fall in that struggle?
The discussion has included the gravel pit more than once. Not only does the owner of the 500 acres out there from Colorado have rights, so do the residents have rights. To advocate one against the other is totally inappropriate in my mind. And it does sound, by the way, that the county is moving towards land use regulations that do involve the commissioners. I'm tickled to hear that. If I were on the commission and this issue came up, I would listen to both the owner of the 500 acres, I would listen to the residents. I would encourage them to reach some sort of compromise. I think we're headed for a train wreck out there, in my opinion. I think we need to find solutions where both parties win. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Thompson, do you want me to read the question again? Or?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. And
You're familiar with the question, is
bear
what you're
with me
saying.
because I'm going to talk fast.
Okay.
So many facets to this question. Should the county have the authority? So currently, if we take the shooting range into account, our planning commission, a group of volunteers that we have appointed, had the final decision. That is wrong. I think a decision like that that's going to upset people needs to be with the elected officials. So we're going to change that in our land use regulations, that if there is something like that, that really has the ability to upset a lot of people, that's going to come to the elected officials and not our planning commission. As far as, if you look at the rock quarry, I've got a real problem with a company coming into our county, buying land with a plan to develop a business under certain rules and regulations, and then us going and changing those rules and regulations after they purchase the land. That to me is not acceptable. When you talk to the people that like to develop oil and gas throughout our state, one of the things they like about Wyoming is a stable regulatory environment. Not a low regulation, not a low rule environment, but a stable regulatory environment. I think that is crucial. Lastly, I think the key to all of this is to have a good plan, a good community plan, and to have land use regulations. And part of being a good plan, good regulations, are the ability to be flexible. And we are on our second, in my time in office, this is the second time we have been going through our land use regulations. And what a wonderful time for these people in these communities to come to us and say, hey, listen, this is what we think need to be in our land use regulations and in our community plan. Whew, thank you.
Talk about a mouthful. Okay, and again, just to remind everyone that when we're done here, you'll have an extra 15 seconds if you want to comment further, add, or whatever comment. So, Mr. Wiggum.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for allowing us to address this. Ironically, this is the precise type of issue that drew me away from Laramie County to study first planning and then property rights as a law student. I agree with everything that Troy just said in terms of the priority, the importance of elected officials making decisions and keeping regulations low and expectations reasonable. However, I think one of the things that can be lost in this and really serves as the bedrock of me thinking about development and property rights is the notion that the property rights go deeper than just what the county commission or the city council or the state have to say. There are bedrock private property rights in both the shooting range incident, the rock quarry incident. I have a client that's got an emerging issue with a gravel pit. There are also private nuisance rights. People do have a right other than what is granted from the government related to property rights. And I think we need to take a look at that and think about those as well. The idea that a property owner, every property owner has the right to occupy their land free of unreasonable, unlawful, or unwarranted uses and the adverse effects therefrom. Perhaps the problem isn't the use, it's the adverse effects of the use. So I think that's maybe a framework that we can look to both with the oil and gas issue and some of these other issues going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Filer.
You don't need to repeat.
Okay.
Thank you. You know, this has been a tricky situation. As a matter of fact, I got a phone call about this yesterday also, because the main issue, this rock quarry, is in a district that I used to represent in the legislature. So of course a lot of those folks out there do call upon me on these certain things. But the main thing I believe here is the strict thing of property rights. If I own property, I believe solely that I own it to the core of the earth. These folks came in from Colorado, they purchased this property under the thoughts and with the regulations that are already in place in order to put in this rock quarry. So now we're caught in between a rock and a hard place. You know, who are we representing? Are we representing the company, or are we representing the private property owners out there? Well, they're all private property owners. And change the rules in the middle of the game, I agree with Troy on that it's just wrong to do. But also, yes, those certain types of hard decisions like that should never ever go to an appointed board, a volunteer board. That should come to your elected officials also. I'm a firm believer in that. With oil and gas development, stuff like that, we also got to remember that us as commissioners have to work with the State Oil and Gas Commission on those issues. That's one thing with me being a former legislator. I had to work in those types of fields also to find out where we could work with our local governments, our local municipalities when it comes to those oil and gas developments, especially if they're going to be starting to infringe on property rights and water rights and things like that. So those types of expertise and things like that we need to bring to this county commission.
Okay, thank you. And as the mic gets passed down, Mr. Hazenauer.
You know, it just comes down to simply the rock quarry situation. There is historical values out in that area. I don't know if anybody can imagine it until you go driving out there how beautiful this area is. The rock quarry north of there is a total destruction. There's hardly any residential homes around it because the rock quarry was there first. These residential homes were there first. If we're going to represent people first, we have an obligation. They're the people that vote for us. They're our constituents. They're looking for elected officials to step in and protect them against this particular business. We need that type of business, but I think it's a business in the wrong area. Again, zoning is not the answer for everybody. They moved out there in this area to get away from the city of Cheyenne, to have their freedoms and liberties out there. Only zoning works if they want it. If they don't want it, then we're in a catch 32 or whatever that catch is. But anyway, representing people first and government last, that's what you're going to get for this Laramie County Commission. I do believe and I understand their situation out there, that they're looking to the elected officials for help to stop this big company from going in there and doing the defacing of a mountain and be there the same amount of time as the rock quarry out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Heath?
We only have a minute and a half. This could be something that we could discuss all evening, I think. There's a lot of things that we can look into here. To begin with, we have a 1,000-foot setback on our oil and gas development from a residential structure. That doesn't mean your barn, that means your house. So it's not 250. The Oil and Gas Commission has already responded to the residents asking for that extension. As far as the granite quarry is concerned, I've been in touch with several of the residents out there. I know their concerns. It is a beautiful area, and yes, I would be concerned if it was my water, my land, my happiness, my view shed, my peace and quiet that was being disturbed. However, on the other hand, I know too that you're not going to find gravel in a wheat field, at least not to the amount that they need out there. So when you start looking at producing gravel, you're going to have to go where the gravel is. It doesn't grow on trees. I don't want to see business stopped here in Laramie County, but at the same time, we need to think about what the residents are doing out there. The business has private property rights. They bought that land thinking that they could develop a gravel pit. So this is the balance that elected officials have to look at. It's not just as easy as black and white, night and day, because we have to deliberate on these things, and it's very important when you choose a county commissioner that you find commissioners that are willing to think these problems through and do the absolute best job they can for the residents of Laramie County.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll begin this question with Mr. Scranton, and this will be an easy question.
I like easy.
Yes, here we go. Any ideas to change or improve the 6th penny special project sales tax ballot?
We all answered that Friday, I believe, at the chamber.
All right.
And as I recall, I think everyone in this room supports the 5th or the 6th. We support quality of life issues. I firmly believe that. And we see that with the jail or the courthouse or the Archer complex. You know, that's $35 million that we approved. In my humble opinion, the problem we saw last May was not with the projects. I think it was the structure of the proposals. In my humble opinion, we lumped some worthy projects together with some projects that maybe were not so worthy, and we were asked to vote yes or no. And as a result, some of the worthy projects did not get approved. So we need to look at the structure as opposed to the projects. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any way to improve the 6th penny ballot?
So if there's a problem with the last 6 penny ballot, you're looking at the guy that's responsible for it, because I was on I was the county's liaison to that committee. Now, what we've established the past 2 times with our 6 penny ballot is that we form a committee made up of representatives from the county, Alvin Burns, Pine Bluff, City of Cheyenne, and this committee gets together. And what we have decided is that we were going to group the projects based on everybody, each of those entities having projects within each of the propositions. And then we said, we're gonna go back to each of our individual entities, we're gonna bring our projects back, and the committee's not gonna judge. So that was the premise that we formulated that ballot. Now, I have heard people loud and clear that, boy, we did not like the way those were grouped, and I'll be the first one to admit that I'm responsible, and I'll be the first one to admit that I think that we're probably gonna do it a little bit differently next time. But I would tell you the voters of Laramie County have been remarkably generous with the 6-penny projects and with the 6-penny ballot. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, very good, thank you. And I just realized that I failed to offer people a 15-second response to the property question before, so we'll finish this and we'll give a 15-second response on this, and then if you have any thoughts lingering from that first question, jot them down and we'll get to those too. So I apologize for that, and I apologize for the interruption, Mr. Wiggum, but the 6-penny ballot, are there improvements we can make?
Well, the first improvement would be to finally have an economy that is so large and so roaring that we didn't need a 6th penny because we could cover everything in a 5th penny. But I agree with Mr. Scranton. The real issue in my mind was the structure of the ballot. I don't oppose projects by type if that's what communities want to bring forward, but I think at least I would stand up for the notion that we need to group projects by type, whether it's water and sewer or solid waste or infrastructure or recreation or law enforcement, and focus more on the type of project in the menu. I firmly believe that the smaller communities and bigger communities need to be lumped together. I am not in favor of a pure menu, just because of the demographics of our community. But I think that's where the best improvement would lie. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Filer.
Yeah, yes, I think on the 6-penny, the one thing I do, before I see what we can do to improve it, but the one thing I do love about the 6-penny is when I go to the ballot, I can actually read about what those projects actually are. So if they are a water project, or if we're building a new firehouse or something like that, it actually explains that in there before you vote on it. But I like to see, not with just the commissions, or the people pointed out in the counties and all the different smaller areas and rural areas, when they bring into these certain ideas and stuff like that they need for their communities and their municipalities, is one thing we need is more public comment from where they're at too. We need people to come in and actually, not only that commission itself and the county commissioners, but those the public comment, I think, is going to be one of the biggest key issues. That way we get things that are on the ballot that the public really wants, and that way we pass a really good 6-penny every single time. You know, but I mean, and you're absolutely right, Mr. Wiggum, if we could just have enough tax revenue and on the 5th penny to fund all this, that'd be great, but sometimes we don't. But we also, this is part of the growth of our community, and this is what sometimes we have to do in order for our communities to grow and our young folks to stay here and have a good working force.
Okay. Passing it down, Mr. Hasenauer will have the next stab at the question about the 6-penny ballot.
Laramie County collects $3.1 million per month on 6-penny, 2.8 on 5th penny. So there's not a whole lot of difference. These are the best scenario months. I'd like to see a lot more standalone items, but I want to make this for for sure. This limited government, limited tax guy has never voted for a 6-penny sales tax project ever. I'm not a cheerleader for them. So I'm limited government, limited taxes, but I realize the public, when they get involved and they vote these things in, the very thing we should do is get 2 contracts and 2 bids on everything we do and try to get more bang for the buck and build these projects like that. We should never have to go to a 7th penny. It's easy to support the 5th penny. That's our roads, public safety, that's a give me. 6th penny is where us limited government folks have the issue. There is some things we can do, and that's start a savings plan for our smaller communities so that we don't have to put their projects on the 6th penny. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Heath.
Can I add my 15 seconds now? You know, the 6-penny is, one of the things that's so special about it is it's a specific purpose option tax. What that means is when those projects show up on the ballot, that money absolutely has to go to that project if it is approved by the voters. It doesn't go to something else. It can't by statute. It is confined to that project. That one is what makes it the specific purpose option tax. I think we've done a misnomer in calling it the 6 penny. As far as restructuring the ballot, you know, I'm open to going to a full menu ballot. However, looking at the number of projects that show up on that, one of my concerns would be by the time the voters got to the end of the ballot, whether there were good projects down there or not, they'd say, I've had enough of this, and they'd move on to the next item. So I think I would support going to groupings, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's law enforcement, and trying to help out these small communities.
Okay, Mr. Malm.
Yeah, so the 6 penny tax to me is where we set aside or make that determination of what people deem as wants, and then they become needs because the voters have approved those projects. So I think it is important with, particularly in the last election, I know there's some heartburn about maybe the grouping, but I truly believe that if the effort had been put into, say, the rec center and items that were with that, because Burns is the community that got most affected by being grouped with the rec center. And if the people who wanted the rec center had advertised and fought as hard as the Christensen Connects people, I think that we'd have a rec center and Burns would have their projects. That I firmly believe. So I don't know if we need to complete overhauling. I don't think that I like the a la carte, each by each. I fear for our small communities if we're to do that. And then also, Campbell County, I believe, does it all or nothing. So that is just one or nothing. And I also don't think that that's necessarily the right decision for our community. So.
Okay, so at this point, 15 seconds. Does anyone want to add or respond? Okay. Okay, we'll do it in the same order. Mr. Thompson.
Just a point of clarification, on the 6 penny receipts, the county has received between 1.5 million and about 1.9 million per month, and we've traditionally gotten that for the past probably 6 or 7 years, at least the past 2 6 penny ballots.
Okay, anyone else want to?
Yes, I want to follow up. I proudly voted for the 6 penny and particularly for the courthouse expansion. As a constitutionalist, I already swore to uphold the Constitution, which includes a right to a speedy trial. And part of good government is doing the essential things well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, and I think Mr. Hazenauer has a 15-second optional.
I just think that they should be rated before they go on there. What is the wants, 1, 2, 3 rated the most important, and rate them as we put them on the ballot and give the voters a chance to say this is the most important and this isn't. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else want to? Oh.
I would say that as the commissioners, when we met, we went through our projects this last time. We had probably another easily $50–60 million that we could have asked for, and we prioritized those projects. We left a lot of them on the cutting room floor, and a lot of them people have said we're going to have to come back the next time with a better plan. Will they make it next time? Who knows?
All right, thank you. Okay, so I think we're done with that question. And just if anyone has, and again, I apologize for not giving you the optional 15 seconds on the land use and management. Does anyone want to add anything? Right now, it's 15 seconds. If you can retain or recover your train of thought, and again, I apologize.
Yeah, leave it to the lawyer to have more to say about everything. I would like to address the issue of oil and gas development, and I talked about nuisance and the possibilities that are there, but I want to make it clear that oil and gas rights are property rights too, and we can't take those away from people. Thank you.
Okay. All right, well then we'll go ahead and start. And actually, the evening is just about up. It's been great, but well, I think we're running out of time here. So there's one last question, and we'll start with Mr. Thompson this time, and then we'll have a minute and a half for closing, and you can use that for anything to raise a question that we haven't raised tonight, or add on, or any way you want to use the closing. But for the final thing, I'm going to talk about the management of our county hospitals. So the hospitals around the state. Many of them are very fragile financial situations, and a major problem with that is unpaid medical bills, and which is a result of lack of insurance. So the question is for, is Medicaid expansion would offer in coverage, medical coverage for a certain class of working poor adults. And the county commissioners, when asking for the legislature, endorsed Medicaid expansion. So, and it may come back with work requirements in a different way. But anyway, as a way to address the physical health of the local hospital, would you support Medicaid expansion, which, just as a bit of background, is a 90-10 match, federal fund, state fund match?
I think it's easy to sit here and talk about philosophies on Medicaid expansion until you look specifically at Memorial Hospital of Laramie County doing business, Cheyenne Regional Medical Center, to the tune of $3 million a year in uncompensated care. When you talk about that hit on our hospital, on our community, it's a different conversation. So yes, I was on the executive committee of the Wyoming County Commissioner Association. I was on the bill review committee of the Wyoming County Commissioner Association, and yes, our association did vote to support Governor Mead's efforts to get Medicaid expansion to our state, and absolutely, I would back that again, especially when we look specifically at Cheyenne Regional Medical Center.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wiggum.
Yes, I'm by no means an expert on healthcare policy. I do know that more government funding for programs worries me as a conservative. I am generally not in favor of Medicaid expansion. I would prefer to find other more market-based means of funding. For Laramie County Memorial Hospital, I think, I don't know, that puts me in a tight spot. But looking for more money flowing from the feds down through the state and down to Laramie County does worry me. And I would hope to find ways through the private sector to help fill that gap, whether it's through ideally more insurance options available and more affordable insurance options available for people working and living right here. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Farley.
Can I have about 30 minutes?
No.
Oh.
No.
All right. Folks, when I was in the legislature, I served on the Labor, Health, and Social Services Committee, and I've seen every single study about Medicaid expansion. I've flown to Washington, D.C., and I've learned about every little aspect of Medicaid expansion. The fact is I understand the concerns of the federal money flowing into the states and then down to the counties. But this is a tax we're all paying every single time we get paid. It's going to the federal government. It's going to other states like Colorado and California, Florida, and all these other places that have to expand Medicaid. Those monies are our tax dollars, from our hardworking dollars right here, that can be coming back to our communities here in Wyoming. Medicaid expansion, it also helps with the uncompensated care in our county hospitals, but it goes further than that. And I would love to talk to anybody about this afterwards. But it goes a lot further than that in our state. When we look at our state budgets right now, with our shortfalls, but look at the money we're spending on the DD waivers and all these different types of programs, that we're having to use our tax dollars in the state to fund. But actually the Medicaid expansion would actually take control of that with the 90-10 match and actually save us, I know the first year would save us almost $200 million in our healthcare system. I could go on. So I would support it.
Okay, as the mic makes its way down to the other end of the table. Thank you.
We want to unleash the private sector businesses, and always when you come to a constitutional question, and the founding forefathers, they would have always recommended the private sector solutions over government solutions. Government has made a mess out of our health care. It's a definite no for me. I want to be able to shop across state lines and open it up through the private sector to reduce the cost of health care. And people have got to learn self-responsibility and going and paying for their own insurance. If we get true Republican legislators voted in the Senate and not a John McCain, Obamacare would have been done with, and we wouldn't be talking about these expansions. Thank you.
Well, the WCCA may have voted to support Medicaid expansion. I was one of those on my silent little clicker that said no. I think one of the things that we need to be looking at is we need to be looking at some options in our health care. You know, we are a rural state. we can ill afford to have a hospital in every community. So I am a supporter of telemedicine and exploring that as far as providing medical services to our smaller communities. I'm also a big supporter of being able to invite insurance across state lines. You know, competition often lowers the cost. And I think that's one of the things that we need to start looking at. Just because it works back on the East Coast does not mean that it's going to work here in Laramie County or in Wyoming as a whole, in our rural areas. So I think we need to start looking at this from thinking outside the box, because what we've been doing isn't working.
Mr. Mullin.
Yes, I do believe in Medicaid expansion in Wyoming, and I think that expanding Medicaid in Wyoming is thinking outside the box. I think we've tried it the other way, and it hasn't worked for a very long time. That $3 million in unfunded liabilities that the hospital endures right now, if our hospital wasn't as healthy as it is, there's not that money in the county budget to recoup that money or to pay for that in the hospital. I've gone through that budget, and while there are areas that we can cut and trim, we don't have $3 million that we can just sweep away. I believe that Medicaid expansion is needed in Wyoming. I've been for it as a private citizen, as a realtor. Our association has been for it. And I think that I would implore our Laramie County legislators to be for it and to be for their constituents, because many of them would take advantage or need to take advantage of Medicaid. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scranton.
Marguerite, to be brutally honest with you, I don't know enough about this issue to have a position. I have not found myself in a position where I've needed to decide one way or the other. So I beg your pardon, ma'am. I don't have an opinion on Medicaid expansion.
Okay, and extra 15 seconds. Does anyone want to add? Okay, Mr. Filer, could you pass the mic down there? Thank you.
I just want to add a little bit more. Again, I would love to talk to anybody about this afterwards. But the government, it got brought up of state exchanges and going across state line. Well, we don't do that in Wyoming. We had an insurance commissioner at the time that thought that was not very healthy for Wyoming. And what happened was now we can't buy insurance across state lines, which in turn shut down a lot of insurance companies where we only have one, which makes healthcare in Wyoming even more expensive than anywhere else in the country.
Anyone want to take another 15 seconds, or maybe okay. No one wants to touch that microphone. Okay. Well, and we have other questions in the bullpen, but we're running out of time here, so we're going to go into the minute and a half to sum up or add to whatever you said before, and we'll start with Mr. Wiggum. So take it away.
Again, my name is Boyd Wiggum. I'm a product of Laramie County. I left. I believe my education and experience and understanding of all of Laramie County equips me for this job. My wife and I have come back. We're raising our 4 children here, and I am running because I want to make sure that Laramie County is a place where my children can have choices to remain here if they so choose. I believe this is about the future and building for the future, preparing for the future. That includes reducing the regulation to growth, regulatory burdens to growth, especially in the rural areas, but it also means preparing for urbanization and doing a good job of urbanization around Cheyenne. Most of the economic growth and diversification that's going to happen in Wyoming is likely to happen here. And I believe that some of the things that Cheyenne needs to do, and especially Laramie County, now that the county is responsible for planning and development right up to the city boundaries, are things that are important for this commission to prepare for. In my perfect world, we also can stand as a conduit and a platform to tackle things that are not necessarily coming out of our budget. Things like trying to expand educational access through the University of Wyoming. I really like how the county has served as a platform to open discussion around oil and gas development. But ultimately, going forward, I think that we face real opportunities, real challenges, and we need to work toward a more diverse, more dynamic economy here in Laramie County, where more people have more choices, and we're working to get more money into the pockets of more households and families in Laramie County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Byler, a minute and a half.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Again, thanks to the League of Women Voters, and thanks for everybody that come out here tonight to watch us and see our views on a lot of different issues that are going on in Laramie County. But again, I want to reiterate, one of the reasons why I think I'm a really good candidate for Laramie County Commission is because of the different things I've done in my life with serving in our military and in the legislature and on different boards and commissions for the governor. I'm also that candidate, and I'll also be that representative in the county that is going to listen to anybody and everybody, whether you're a business, private owner, or anything like that. I want to know your concerns, because one thing I will do is I'll listen and I'll learn and then I'll lead. And I'll lead with your help, and I'll lead with the help of the other commissioners, because I'm always willing to listen and learn. And it's a group partnership between public and private citizens and private business to make this community grow and keep it as diverse as it is getting, and keep our young children here and stuff, and have that good workforce. And I'll be honest with you, I would love my 5 kids to stay right here in Laramie County and raise their families here. I don't want my grandkids to move off to another state or anything like that, because then my wife would have to drag me with them. And I want them right here where I know they're safe and they're happy and we have a great place for them to grow up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Making its way down. Minute and a half.
Yeah, and everybody knows I'm a constitutional, limited government person, and I have traditional Christian values that most Americans have enjoyed in Laramie County forever. I started this off in Pines Bluff. I said, it's more important that you have the chance to be saved, that you run a candidacy of honesty and keeping your campaigns clean and having a chance to be saved. You know, I lost a loved one. He was my brother. And it's been very hard on our family over the last year. And sometimes when you're a Christian and you fear God and you pray to Him, sometimes He speaks to you, and sometimes He gives warnings. And we felt like a death angel would visit our family. I lost a 43-year-old friend too, and I lost my sister also. Sometimes when you feel those feelings, you need to speak them out in warning. So we're not upset as a county that tragedy would strike us, and it has before. So I'd ask my fellow commissioners to live right, love one another, and let's push that forward for Laramie County. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Heath.
Yeah, I think as county commissioners, we have to serve all the residents of Laramie County, and it doesn't make any difference what your gender is, what your political party is, what your religious beliefs are. When I get a road complaint, I don't ask what church do you go to, what political party do you belong to. It's a pothole, it's a corrugated road, it's a mud hole, whatever it is, and it has to be dealt with. You know, one of the things that I support, and I look at our county regulations, I look at the development that's going on here in Laramie County. We can't emphasize one over the other. We have to look at all of those issues together, because one is going to affect the other. Our land use regs can be simplified. We can do things that we can to encourage businesses. You know, when we start looking at the land use regs in particular, we look at, you know, they're talking about we're going to require you to put in sidewalks, we're going to require you to put in landscaping. You know, sidewalks aren't cheap, nor are curbs and gutters. But trees, if you're not ready to take care of them, are a liability to the cost of starting up a business, especially if we're going to require businesses to put in curb and gutter. Great idea, I love them for public safety. They look nice, and darned if they don't keep the mud off your shoes. But you know, we have to balance those things. We can't just focus on one or the other.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Malm.
Yes. As I mentioned in my intro, I'm a 6th generation Laramie County resident, and I'll turn 35 the day of the primary. I'm running because I'm a businessman here in Cheyenne who has invested his time, money, and energy to make this community my home. It has provided a great living for my family for the last 125 years, and I want to continue that tradition to the generations that follow me. I want to invest in our community and in our entrepreneurs. If we're going to run this, everybody says we want to run government like a business, but all businesses I know that are successful invest in themselves and invest in their people. So we have to be willing to invest in the citizens, and our asset is our people in Laramie County. I think that if we are recruiting anybody to come here, if they had the opportunity to come after that hailstorm 2 Sundays ago and walk around a neighborhood and see everybody on their lawns helping each other and seeing that camaraderie and love for community that transcends partisanship or transcends religious beliefs, and just the way that we have been successful since the pioneer days, where all of our success rested upon our ability to help one another. And I think if we get back to that, Laramie County's future will continue to be bright, and I look forward to being part of that future. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Scranton?
The last position I had before I retired was with the city building department. And there I helped contractors, subcontractors, homeowners, home builders get their projects through the system. Clearly the most satisfying and rewarding position of my career. I want to continue experiencing that satisfying and rewarding feeling by helping others. And my desire is to serve all residents of Laramie County. I want to continue giving back to my community. As to the issues, I don't have all the answers, as you heard a few moments ago. But when it's necessary to have an opinion, to take a position, I will study, I will ask questions, I will listen, and I will learn. Additionally, I will seek the input and opinions from others. And I would be very, very proud to have your support August 21st. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, you'll have the final word tonight for the County Commissioners.
Troy Thompson, Strong Leadership, Family Values. My appreciation to the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and my appreciation to my colleagues up here on the table. It takes some guts to do this, and I think we've made it pretty evident that people have a tough choice in front of them, because we're all good candidates. We all have great ideas. I think when you go to the ballot box, you need to look at experience, and I think you need to have the candidate that has the most time on the commission, that has taken leadership roles, not just with our commission, but with the Wyoming County Commissioner Association. And I think you need to look at the candidate that has the ability to make the tough decisions, and has made the tough decisions, and has made mistakes, but has the ability to learn from those and to continue to make, again, the intelligent, rational decisions based on honest family values. I'm that candidate. My name is Troy Thompson. I appreciate your vote on August 21st. Thank you.
And can we give them all a round of applause for all? Thank you. And next up is County Clerk. And so we'll give people a couple of minutes here to get settled. Okay, we're back for the forum for County Clerk, and we have 2 people running. One is the, well, incumbent, just to briefly say, we have 2 Republicans running. So this is one of those cases where the primary is going to be the election. And we're going to do it much like we did the previous one, with a minute and a half to open. We'll try to get to 2 or 3 questions, and then with the 15-second add or rebuttal opportunity, and then in a minute and a half to close. And just mention that although Ms. Deborah Lee is running as the incumbent, this is her first election, because as she mentioned in her opening speech, is that she was appointed to fill a vacancy. So she's running as the incumbent, but this is her first time on the ballot, and her challenger is Pam Glick. And again, as the previous one, we'll start with opening, and then we'll alternate the beginning of the who starts the rounds. The next question. It is for 4 years, and it is there are no term limits. So we will start with Ms. Glick, and a minute and a half to open. Thank you.
Is it on? It's on. Again, my name is Pam Glick, and I am running on the Republican ticket for Laramie County Clerk. I too am a transplant here. My father was stationed here in 1975 in the Air Force. He retired here. I've been here, well, I was moved here in 1975. I left in '87 for a little while, and I moved back to raise my kids here in 1995, and have been here ever since. I moved back here because I love Laramie County, I love Wyoming, I love the wide open spaces. I am a hunter-ress, I guess would be the proper way to say it. I love fishing, I love camping, I love the outdoors. Danny and I live out east of town. We raise horses and cattle and pigs and chicken and dogs and kids and, you know, everything that goes along with living out there. I have worked for the state of Wyoming as the Human Resource Manager for the Department of Revenue for the last 18 years. Through my years here, I have had the opportunity to meet thousands of people that live in Laramie County. And I think and y'all know who I am, I'm the sheriff's wife, I have been, you know, so it's, we get out in the public eye, we work in the community, we volunteer in the community, and does that mean my time's up? It is, thank you.
Okay, thank you. A minute and a half, opening marks.
Yeah, I've already told you a little bit about my background, so I thought I'd start off by talking about the duties of the county clerk. The county clerk is the chief election officer for the county, the budget officer. We are the clerk to the Board of County Commissioners. We keep the records for the county, and we have a lot of other duties. I have a very diverse background, and it's an important job, and we've made significant improvements in nearly every area of the county clerk's office. I have the knowledge, vision, and leadership as county clerk to help move Laramie County forward.
All right, thank you. And you can go ahead and keep that. We'll start the questioning with you, Ms. White. And we did, as in all the other forums, we asked people to think about, I don't know why I just said that. Anyway, so I apologize. So again, like with all the other forums, we asked people to think about three issues facing the office you're running for and your responses to them. So if you could go ahead and have a minute and a half to cover that, a lot of territory, about a minute and a half.
I would say, firstly, it's meeting the increased needs for services in a growing Laramie County. Our population is growing. As it's been said, it will soon be 100,000 people. And our revenues will always lag behind our demand for services. So meeting these needs is going to be a great challenge. How do we meet them successfully, efficiently, effectively? That is a major challenge. In tandem with this, I would say improving communication and coordination with all county departments. There's a tendency to have some stovepiping or silo where there's not a lot of communication between departments. We have 450 staff in the county. We are getting at the size we need better coordination and communication. I think we're like a step forward with that with elected officials meetings, which will take place soon. Lastly, but not least, election equipment. We need new equipment by 2020. We must find a way to purchase this equipment, maintain it, and purchase the best equipment.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Glick, the three main issues.
Thank you. For me, and in my dealings with the public, as I have been out knocking on hundreds of doors, and well, actually probably thousands of doors, and dealing with businesses and business owners, it comes the customer service issue. And the customer service issue is both internally as well as externally. It's with the citizens, the individual people that need to have dealings with that office, as much as it is with businesses that need to have dealings with that office. The second thing I think is some transparency. I think that there are some policies and procedures that need to be put in place so that everyone is given the same answers out to the constituents. Instead of people coming in and getting different answers at different times they come in order to get their problem solved. I also feel as though that there needs to be an open door policy. I will be available to you. I'm not gonna not come out just because I may not know the answer to a question. I think that the employees that work down there are the greatest asset that the clerk's office has. And I think that we need to empower those employees and be able to do their jobs. And that empowering may be through training, it may be through, you know, some leadership training classes and different things like that.
Okay, thank you. And now another 15 seconds. Do either one of you want to add on to what you said or respond?
I would say, since I've been in office, we have documented improvements in customer service. When I arrived there, I had maybe 4 or 5 complaints about a certain area and titles, and those are reduced. We have that many in a year now. We have greatly improved the quality of customer service all the way around.
Okay, thank you. Another 15 seconds, okay?
And I'm sorry to have to say that I have absolutely encountered significantly more than 4 or 5 problems in the title office just in the last 2 weeks out walking door to door.
Okay, well, we will, and then, you know, with the closing, you can touch on this again if you want, but we're going to move on. And starting now with Ms. Glick. Do you have confidence in the security of our ballots and voting systems? What changes would you like to see?
Right now, the way that everything is set up, yes, I don't see issues that are going on. We certainly don't deal with the problems that have happened nationwide with, you know, people voting more than once, different things like that. I had never used the absentee ballot as far as the mail-in in all the years that I have voted in Laramie County, and I did use that process this time. I called into the office. It was great. They took the information, they mailed it out, I filled out the ballot, I did the affidavit. The only thing I didn't do is put it back in the mail to send it back into the office. The Postal Service, I'm sorry to say, I don't have the confidence in. I mailed out, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 postcards out to Eastern Laramie County and got probably more than 50% of them back. In dealing and talking with the post office and finding out things go to Laramie or go to Denver before they come back up here. I think I love the absentee voting, being able to go down. To me, there isn't any issues on the election side with the different things that are going on. So yes, I do have confidence in the way that it is currently being run.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lee.
Since I've been in office, we have improved security, which was good already, but we've taken additional measures in light of what's happening nationally. We have strengthened our firewalls at our vote centers. We have installed security cameras in areas where we have equipment and where we count the absentee ballots. And we work hand in hand with our IT or technology department to ensure that every possible measure is taken to ensure the security of our process.
Okay, thank you. And anyone want another 15 seconds? Okay, we will move on then. How can you or we encourage more 18-year-olds, and this time we'll start with Ms. Lee. How can we encourage more 18-year-olds or maybe 18 to 24-year-olds to register and to vote?
As you probably know, 18 to 24-year-olds do not tend to register. They do not participate in elections. I think the percentage is about 6 or 7%. I think there's several things that could be done. One, we can reach out to schools more because that's where students are in place, and communicate with those teachers, work with those teachers, and get those kids to register and to vote. One of the problems is often they will register, but then they don't turn out to vote. So that's a two-pronged approach that would need to take place. Tie the voting to their needs and wants. What future do they want for Laramie County? Who is best able to accomplish that for them? The example of the 6 penny ballot, what do they want to see in their community that they desire to make happen? Also, I think we need to involve parents and grandparents in this effort. The other day we had a grandparent brought his granddaughter down to register and vote. And another case, we had a father bring his daughter as well. And I think that's very powerful, and we should encourage that and foster that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Black. Want me to repeat the question? No. Okay.
The 18 to 24-year group is quite a different group to deal with. In my experience as an HR manager, we also deal with a whole different set of issues with that age group. I think we need to find some electronic ways to be able to get through to that age group. That age group spends more time on Facebook, on social media, being able to get some things on the website to where you can get to them. I don't know necessarily that high school is a place they can't register before they're 18 anyway. Most of them these days are graduating before they're 18, but maybe hit the LCCC. I think reaching out and dealing with the parents and having the parents get the kids to understand just how important their vote is. I think that that age group just does not think that their vote counts, and I think that we need to find ways to prove to them just how much their vote does count.
Okay, thank you. Another 15 seconds or no? All righty, moving right along. What is the role of county clerks in the redrawing of state legislative district lines? We're going to have a census in 2020, and lines are going to be redrawn. And what role do the county clerks have in making sure the lines are drawn well? And I guess we'll start with Ms. Glick on that question.
Well, for that question, I have to honestly tell you that I don't have any idea what that answer is. I didn't know that the county clerks would be involved in the redrawing of the district lines, so that would be an education area that I would need to look into. I can't respond.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lee.
The legislature, by and large, determines how many districts there will be and where the counties are carved up. For example, Laramie County does have a Senate district that crosses into Goshen County. So the legislature would take the lead on that, but the clerks actually have to implement that. And you need maps, number one, and population figures, because you need to have a balance of population so that one district doesn't have lots of people and the other district hardly any. That would not be fair representation. So those are the two main things you need, maps and population data. We do have a very good GIS department in the county, and we are looking at improving our services in that respect. We have the maps from previous years, and I found out we had not been saving that data. We were erasing the maps and then rewriting over them, so I stopped that, and we will now keep those maps for historical purposes, and it helps with planning.
Is anyone, okay, and another 15 seconds, or, okay. When the results of the election, the county clerk will take office at the beginning of the year, well, in December. What are your plans for the first 6 months of 2019? And we will start with Ms. Lee.
So the first 6 months of 2019, we have a number of projects that are in the works, and we will move forward on these. One is we went to a new minutes and agenda program for the commission meetings. This is a very important step in making the process more transparent. And our intention is to take all the old minutes and agendas of the board meetings and put them into this system, which means the public can search online. They can find the agenda items and all the minutes online. They don't have to call our office. So secondly, I want to work in the area of finance, to streamline processes in our finance department. And again, this involves working with other departments in the county.
Okay, Ms. Glick, plan for the first 6 months of 2019.
Actually, I'll probably start before the 6 months in January. I will, if elected, and if I win the primary, I will retire from the state the middle of September. That gives me October, November, December to be able to start gearing up, finding out some information about the office, where some things are, review some policies and procedures, and kind of start working on streamlining and see what it is that can be done to help improve the services. Need to look and see what kind of backlog that there is and what it is that we can start right off the ground in January and getting the backlog caught up, and then what it is that we need to be able to do to keep staying on a current basis day to day. And I think that's...
Okay, excellent. Another 15 seconds? So we've got one more question here from the audience, and then we'll go to our closings. I appreciate your being concise. You're doing a good job. But, you know, talking about transparency, that term came up a lot during county commissioners were up here, and it just got mentioned again. And the county clerk has a lot to do with budgets and keeping of the rules and regs and that sort of thing. What are the most important steps the county clerk's office needs to take to improve transparency in county government? And we will start with Ms. Glick.
I think that one of the things for the transparency that needs to really take place is that we get some of this stuff online, and we get it online to where the public, the citizens, can see what's going on. You know, we collect the money, and the citizens have a right to know how we're spending that money. I think on the transparency side for on the financial side, the budget is placed out there already as far as what the annual budget is. At least in my search, I didn't see anything that shows what's left in those areas that are going on a month-to-month basis to where you can see that. And I think that that would be a good item to have out there online for the individuals to be able to see as well.
Okay, Ms. Lee, transparency in county government.
So I mentioned the minutes in a program that we adopted in January, and that is really a huge change for the Laramie County citizens, because now they can see all the supporting documents that the board will consider when they have a meeting, and this has never happened before. They will be able to see how commissioners voted on those items. They'll be able to track them, and then they can go to the video as Commissioner Thompson mentioned and see it. And when we put all the records on, that will be extremely significant. We have land records that we are scanning and making those available online. This is an ongoing project. We plan to take land records from the 1800s up to 1988 and put those online, make those available online. Also, the county's rules, those exist currently in paper form. Not all the rules, but a number of them, and we will put those online. Again, online access, so it's available to people readily.
Okay, thank you. Next to 15 seconds? No? And actually, I'm going to take that back about that being the last question, because someone did ask a question about information to voters. So the legislature a couple of years ago removed the 5-year waiting period for people who qualify, they're nonviolent one-time felons, qualify for having voting rights restored. So now it is automatic upon completion of all the conditions of their sentencing. And but I think there's a problem out there. Apparently the questioner writer thinks so also, for people to know when their rights have been restored, and what could the county clerk's office do to help in letting these people know that their voting rights have been restored and they should come, they're eligible to vote. And I guess, Ms. Lee.
Well, it's my understanding that when the rights are automatically restored, that the individual receives a letter from the court stating so. And we get a copy of that, but we have no way of contacting that person. We don't know. I mean, they aren't registered to vote, obviously. If they were, we would have their information, but they aren't registered to vote because they had a felony. So it's, I think, more public information in terms of media, press releases, that sort of thing. Probably working with groups that work with convicted felons and doing some outreach in that sense, I think would be very helpful. And improvements on the website informing people.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Glick.
I'm kind of a person for personal accountability, and so I kind of think that once they receive that letter in the mail telling them that their voter rights have been restored, it becomes their responsibility to come down and get registered to vote. I do agree that there is no way that anybody in the county clerk's office on the election form, you don't know. If they haven't registered, that's the only information that you have. Placing the information out on the website, definitely there could be an area indicating, hey, if you got the letter, don't forget to come down, register to vote, give us a call, we'll help you out with the paperwork. Maybe working with the court system to where on the letter there could be some additional information that's added onto that letter about based on where, if they're in Laramie, where the Albany County office is and where it is that they can go register to vote right there inside the letter that they receive.
Thank you. And if there's no follow-up, we'll just go right to the closing comments. And Ms. Glick, we'll start with you. Minute and a half to sum up or touch on something we didn't ask about.
Again, there's a couple things that, I love Laramie County. I want to make a difference in the office. Customer service is an issue. I know it's an issue that people don't necessarily want to hear about. If there wasn't that issue, I probably wouldn't be running. One of the other things that I do want to make sure that I get across is I have had a couple of the employees that work down at the office contact me thinking the rumor mill going around that my intention is to walk in and terminate everybody or anybody. And I want to assure you that that is absolutely not the case. That would be cutting my nose off to despite my face. Need the historical knowledge and need the employees that are there in order to carry forward and get the job done. I truly believe that empowering the employees to be able to do their job is one of the biggest things that needs to happen down there. I think taking a look again, I'd like to use technology a little bit more to enhance services, streamline services, and save the taxpayers money. Let's get this done and let's get it done right.
Okay, Ms. Lee, closing arguments. Your closing statement.
So, again, in my 2 years as county clerk, we've accomplished a lot as a team, and I say we because it's not the clerk alone who does anything, it's the staff who work together. We've improved elections by the Vote Center plan, which was first initiated by Clerk Lathrop. In finance, we got the county's budget adopted before the start of the fiscal year, providing new momentum for our departments and facilitating their ability to get grants. We also put together a plan to fund 6 penny projects, the jail expansion and the courthouse remodel, that will save the county an estimated $2.5 million by self-funding those projects using county reserves. We save this money rather than going for a bond or taking out a loan. We've expanded access to information, and I've outlined some of those ways with the board commission program. We've also made significant improvements in public information, outreach to voters, communication with parties, candidates, and the public. We've improved services. We process some 4,000 titles per month. Again, when I took office, processing time for the automobile dealers was 3 to 4 weeks. We've cut that to a matter of days. This was the first time this has happened in 4.5 years. We reduced our backlog to 0. So again, I am the candidate with the knowledge, vision, and leadership to lead Laramie County forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we give them a hand, please? Okay, next up are the sheriff's candidates, and just give us a couple minutes to get everyone set up. Thank you. So the two candidates up here are the Democrat is not here tonight, so The forum will involve the two Republican candidates, the incumbent Sheriff Glick and the challenger, Mr. Taylor. And we'll run like we did before, minute and a half to open. We will have questions starting with the one that everyone is answering, the three main issues. There will be a 15-second response to any of the questions, and we will alternate the person who starts the question. So we will go ahead and start with Sheriff Glick, and you have a minute and a half to open. Reintroduce yourself. I know you did originally, but anyway, go ahead and take the floor.
Well, I'm Danny Glick, and as I said earlier, I've been 37 years in law enforcement, all here with the Laramie County Sheriff's Office. The last almost 16, I've been sheriff. You know, we've faced many issues, and I think you've heard many of those issues up here through the commissioners and the other debates. One thing that happens, and one thing that was commonplace throughout, is the growth in Laramie County. And I think that's vitally important to remember as we speak back and forth tonight, is the growth and how it affects every office in the county, but for me, specifically the Sheriff's Office. I've been here with the Sheriff's Office, as I said, for those 37 years. We've come a long way. I can remember in the old days when I was on patrol, we didn't have a radio that could operate from Denver Hill to downtown. And today we've got a program in place where we can talk across the state. So in a world of technology, we've kept up. But we've got a long ways to go. And we're going to make it. I think with the county IT program, they have helped us carry it into the future. So I'm Danny Glick, running for re-election as sheriff.
Thank you very much. Mr. Taylor, a minute and a half.
I'm Greg Taylor, and I'm running for sheriff. Once again, it's to echo some of the same things that have been said before. Growth is one thing. The crime that is associated with that growth is another thing. Having a state to the south of us that does have legalized marijuana, that does have a sanctuary city, that does have a major metropolitan area of nearly 3 million people, that is going to affect Laramie County and the safety of the citizens. The best way to address those things is to be ready to deal with the issues that come along with that. The dual addiction problem, the drugs, the alcohol, the mental health, and things of that nature. So I have stayed on the forefront with things of that nature, the technology, as far as the radios, things of that nature, 800 megahertz fully encrypted statewide access to all law enforcement agencies. And I will continue to be on the front line of that to stay active and informed and out in the community addressing all of those problems as they arise.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll start with the questioning, and we'll start with Mr. Taylor. Can go ahead and start. The one that what are the three major issues in your view facing the Sheriff's Department and your approach to those?
Well, once again, re-echoing what I said earlier, is the increase in crime. My current employment, I have seen that increase in crime firsthand. It's going to be a matter of addressing that insofar as increasing, patrol activity. That's going to be accomplished by analyzing the calls that have occurred throughout the county over the past, maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't know what exact time period I'm going to have to do to look at to address that. Another one is going to be ongoing yearly cooperation and review of any MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings, with any of the local law enforcement agencies. We have Pine Bluff Police Department, Cheyenne Police Department. We can't sit back and really have the luxury of fighting over jurisdictions and things like that. We need to work together as law enforcement for the best interest of the community. As far as prisoners and things of that nature, inmates in the jail itself, there needs to be an increase in programming available to them so that we can end this revolving door of people coming in. The mental health aspect in the community is, there's not a lot of community resources available to address that, and unfortunately that population ends up incarcerated more often than not. So we need to have, and I know they have a bond that's already passed to build a new ward, so we need to get the people in place to deal with that. We need to bring more programming in to deal with the drugs and the alcohol.
Thank you. Glick.
So my 3 areas, and there's many areas that affect the operations of the sheriff's office. Manning would be one of my top priorities. Then you look at the jail, the overcrowding, and the drugs. And then you look at school safety. With the Manning issue, we heard it up here today, and we've heard it since, that growth is affecting us. Those numbers that we don't have as far as deputies and being able to serve the people of Laramie County is very evident. You know, here very shortly we're going to have a population of 100,000 people in Laramie County, and our numbers of deputies out in patrol has not kept pace with that. To the point that we have many details. In fact, I've got a lieutenant sitting in the back of the room who actually pulled details through Frontier Days and again this morning at the county fair just to cover up because of the lack of numbers we have. So in rural western United States, numbers are very important because of that setting itself. But before my time runs out, I also want to talk about the jail briefly. And that is those numbers in there with mental health and drugs and or substance abuse needs are running the population. There's about 60 to 70% of those inmates right now that are either addicted to some substance or mentally ill, and I carry those all in the same barrel when we look to deal with them. And it can't be that the sheriff's office, the jail, is a holding cell for the mentally ill.
Okay, thank you. Do either one of you want to add another 15 seconds? Or?
Well, I'd like to actually agree with the current sheriff. The population, that particular population is a difficult one to deal with, and the statistic has proven that about 80 to 85% of the population has an underlying drug or alcohol component to the crime that they have.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Glick, or shall we?
No, ma'am.
All right, very good. Then we will start. You'll have the first shot at this question. What is the solution? This kind of segues off what you've been talking about. What is the solution to our jail overcrowding? More cells? Alternatives to incarceration? Programs to lower recidivism? Do you have any ideas on how to address that?
Well, all of the above affects the population in the jail. And by all of the above, those that you mentioned. You're always looking for deterrence within the community, but I think with the drugs and the mental health, deterrents are really hard. Those people end up in that revolving door and back in front of the judge, put on probation, put back out on the streets, on probation again, back on the streets, and finally the court says that's enough and sends them to jail. So with that, I think like the 24/7 program, which is just implemented by the legislature, that program will take a second-time DUI offender, put him out where he will day report twice a day, and that cost will be transferred to him and not the taxpayers. And I think that's vitally important. The taxpayers have foot the bill for these folks forever, and it's just become too burdensome with all the other responsibilities that we have as taxpayers.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
I've had firsthand knowledge and experience in dealing with an addicted and mentally ill population. As a felony probation and parole officer in Idaho, that was my job, was daily supervision of that population. One thing that I have found, and it is backed up by statistic, is the fact that for every dollar you spend on education and treatment, it saves you up to $3 in incarceration costs. As it currently stands in the state of Wyoming, there is no formalized misdemeanor probation system consisting of probation officers having contact with those individuals on a monthly, quarterly, semi-annual basis and things like that. Once again, I do have to agree with the sheriff. They end up coming back into the jail. That is the perfect environment to bring that programming in, to look at bringing like a level 2 intensive outpatient treatment program into the correctional environment. And their only other thing they are doing is watching television, and bring in a cognitive self-change program or recognition therapy, things of that nature to help them address that thinking patterns.
Okay, thank you. Another 15 seconds.
Well, what I would like to say is, yes, we can have those people in jail and we can develop those programs, but that's not the place for a jail. That's not where that should be happening. We have to engage our public leaders and the businesses that are out there to help us with this project. Because if we have private business helping sponsor this, all the burden doesn't fall back on taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, do you mind follow up?
Yes, I'd like to follow up with that. The program that I helped design, implement, and bring into a county jail in Idaho involved the community partners, involved them providing some of the treatment providers. I, as a felony probation officer, I went into the jail, and while this class was in session, I taught the cognitive self-change program, which was to address the criminal thinking and the patterns that go along associated with that. It's a chicken and egg thing. Did the drugs come first or did the crimes come first? Either way, you got to do something about it.
Okay, well, so this time we'll start with Mr. Taylor. What are your views on body cameras, both when they should be used and how much should be shared with the public?
Body cameras are essential. There's some people in the law enforcement community that are not for them. I am for them. I think it's a measure of accountability for the officer itself and for the public. If it's an active, ongoing investigation, that body camera photo or footage should not be shared with the public. It can affect the outcome of the investigation until that is complete or until the appropriate legal authority surrounding that department, the sheriff's office, has agreed that it can be released, whether it be the district attorney, county attorney, any of those individuals. No, it should not be released until then. If anything, I think what should occur is when body cameras are activated and when dash cameras are activated, they should be somewhat prior to the events that an individual is being arrested for, because you need to establish a reasonable articulable suspicion leading to probable cause, leading to. So with that all in mind, the camera should be activated at a better time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, body cameras.
I agree with the use of body cameras and dash cams. I think they prove beneficial not only for investigative purposes, but also for personal responsibility for the deputies, officers that wear them, but also the public. I think when people are made aware that those are there and they're being recorded, it will diffuse the situation much easier, much quicker than what would happen under normal circumstances. And if it comes to a situation to where a complaint is filed against a deputy, if we have to go with he said, she said, nobody wins in that situation. In fact, you end up looking worse. So I absolutely agree with the use of body cameras, and there's already a review process with legislation in place for the footage to be reviewed prior to release with a consensus by several people.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want another 15 seconds? Okay, so we will start with Mr. Glick with this question. And are you satisfied with the department's ability to hire and retain qualified employees? And I guess if not, what case would you take to the county commissioners?
Well, you're never satisfied. I mean, it's pretty apparent, and we even heard it from the commissioners. They recognize the fact that we're losing qualified people. A lot of it's due to pay, a lot of it's due to the circumstances. You can look at the numbers and you can tell that a lot of people don't stay anymore. It's a tough job. But rather than, when you review everybody's process of leads, you try and ask those pertinent questions that would help guide you into improving a situation for the future. But rather than taking that into account, let's celebrate the people that stay. Let's pay them. Let's try and improve the circumstances, because I think if you do that, you are going to have people talking about how good it is where they're working, and they're going to want to come. And we've had a lot of people come into this area, come into this office, my office, and apply for jobs from away. And I think the recruiting processes and trying to show people what we have and what we give, look at our lifestyle.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Recruiting and retention is one of the hardest areas to deal with when we have a law enforcement agency. the public trend is going away from wanting to be in law enforcement. I would commence a national campaign to recruit people. I would go to job fairs and things of that nature. I would also implement a salary structure where individuals are aware that if you come to work for this agency, you will be seeing these pay raises on this timetable. You can also use that insofar as rewarding good performance. You can put another bonus level in there. You can bump somebody up another pay grade if necessary. But if people can look and say, okay, in 5 years, I'm going to be at this point. The other thing that needs to be brought in is training, opportunities to have training, opportunities to go to training, opportunities to go and bring the training back so that you can stand in front of your peers and present these things and raise your standing in their eyes. And as far as salary goes, I'd like to mention that the starting salary here for deputies is comparable to what most sheriffs make in western Nebraska.
All right, thank you. Nellie, you want to add 15 seconds?
I do. We do have a train-the-trainer program in place. We have approached the commissioners for added positions, and we work diligently to try and improve the pay scales. But the commissioners ultimately make the pay scale, and we live with them. Now, do we make them aware that there's lackings in what other people make? We absolutely do.
Thank you. Do you want to add something, Mr. Taylor?
One thing I would like to add is on a regular basis, monthly, sometimes every 2 weeks basis, I check various national websites that have law enforcement, the ability for law enforcement agencies to advertise. I've never seen an advertisement from the Sheriff's Office on Police One, International Association of Chiefs of Police. I would like to see that.
Okay, well, we're going to leave that there for this question, but on our closing, if you want to add something more to it, go ahead and take that opportunity. But okay, so we start with Mr. Taylor this time. What is the biggest enforcement problem for the Sheriff's Department? Property crimes, assault, drones, marijuana, domestic violence, and in terms of the biggest enforcement problem, you can interpret that any way you want. By the biggest enforcement headache problem.
Well, each one of those has its own problem area. Domestic violence, they can be especially bad because you never know if you're rolling up there and someone has a gun. Drugs is another one. Like I said, we have a state to the south of us that has legalized marijuana. And you can proceed the robbery aspect. Once again, there's probably a drug or alcohol underlying component, most likely drug component to those crimes. So what it takes is it's an overall approach to it. You have to get your officers trained to recognize, okay, when I'm dealing with this individual, what is really going on here? Do I have a mental health problem present, or do I have somebody that's on drugs? Do I have someone that's on drugs, or do I have someone that's having a diabetic reaction? And that comes down to training, bringing that forward. The standardized field sobriety testing that's used for driving under the influence of alcohol doesn't necessarily always work if you have someone under the influence of marijuana. So those aspects there are the ones that need to be addressed by training.
Thank you. Good.
Ma'am, could I ask you to repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. What is the biggest enforcement problem for the Sheriff's Department? And I just, suggestions, property crimes, assault, drones, marijuana, domestic violence.
Our domestic violence numbers have been going down, but it doesn't diminish the fact that that's one of the most dangerous situations a law enforcement officer can enter into. I think one of the things that we face is our proximity to Colorado and their liberal stances on drugs. And I'm not just talking the leafy stuff, I'm talking the stuff that's edible, that's walking into our state on a daily basis, that's 80 to 90% pure. And it doesn't affect, and we lost one of our own kids from Wyoming that went down there and bailed off a balcony and killed themselves. That stuff is walking death, and the liberal stances that are not uniform across this country are affecting us all. Our stance right now, we may someday legalize. But until that time, it's illegal and we've got to deal with it that way. And until we do, until we come together as a group and say enough is enough, we will continue to lose people and we will continue to spin our wheels. We need to look at people and take their money away that are selling dope.
Okay. And another 15 seconds, want to go ahead and take another pass at this, or shall we?
Well, once again, I agree with the sheriff. You know, those individuals that are engaged in the sale, trafficking of drugs, if you have two individuals driving down Interstate 80, they're driving a Cadillac, they have California plates, they have 200 pounds of marijuana and $500,000 in the car, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add at that point, Sheriff? Or?
No, I'm fine now, thank you.
Okay. All right, so, and we will start with Mr. Blake this time. And final question before the closing. How is the relationship, talking about overlapping jurisdictions, or relationship between the Sheriff's Department and, say, the Cheyenne Police, well, all the municipal police departments, and the state law enforcement, federal law enforcement? How would you describe the working relationship among all those different those agencies, sometimes with overlapping jurisdiction?
You know, a few years ago, legislature almost took away the ability for the police department to come into the county and back my deputies up. Attorney General Crank authored that bill, and we fought hard since. There are some issues, absolutely there is. In fact, the chief is sitting back there and he can testify to the fact that we still have just sent an MOU back to the Attorney General for a decision on property boundaries and the ability for the Cheyenne police officers when they can operate and when they can't. One of the biggest things we have to look at is teamwork. None of us have enough people or enough monies to operate alone or as an island. So we do that. And I think our ability to operate with other agencies within not only this region, but within the state and the country is improving greatly. And it has been that way. I think for a long time there were issues with that, but I don't believe that's the case anymore. We know we have to work together. In fact, nationally, I testified to the fact that the rest of the country ought to look at what Wyoming is and does, because this is an example how others should operate.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, jurisdictions with, agencies with overlapping jurisdictions, how do you see the current situation?
Well, the current situation, from what I see, the MOU needs to be, memorandum of understanding, needs to be reviewed on an annual basis, not every 3 years. Cooperation with the other jurisdictions, the other agencies is important. Once again, agreeing with the sheriff, nobody has enough people to do the job. So we have to learn how to share resources. We have to learn how to be able to, if a trooper is on Interstate 25 and he's north of town and needs some help, if the next available person is a sheriff, then that person needs to be there. Same within town, if a Cheyenne police officer has a situation developing, if the nearest available officer is a sheriff's deputy, he needs to be there. I don't think that the sheriff's office responsibility is to be actively patrolling through town. If something happens on the way out to where you're going, absolutely deal with it. But the Cheyenne Police Department, their jurisdiction is the city of Cheyenne. We are there to help them. We do have jurisdiction, that the sheriff's office would have jurisdiction in the city of Cheyenne. Let me make that perfectly clear.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comment at this point?
If I may, these county pockets have always caused us issues, and I think everybody in this room is aware of it, on response times with deputies usually on the outer limits having to come into town. And we had a gentleman's agreement between the chief and myself that if they got there and something happened, to stop whatever criminal activity and we would respond immediately. So I think
once again, in agreement with the sheriff on this. My current employment, I would go to different locations through town and I would say to myself, why was the sheriff's deputy here? And then I figured out the way that you know it belonged to the sheriff's department was it was a dirt road in the middle of town.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and go to a closing, a minute and a half, and you can use it to summarize or to address something further or that we haven't come up with. So, and we start with Mr. Taylor. So, and a minute and a half.
Okay. Well, once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this forum to, to present our views and opinions on these matters. I, once again, would like to state that I'm fully qualified to do this job. I am a fully certified law enforcement officer. I do have a management certificate. I do have a bachelor's degree with a criminal justice major. And I would look forward to the opportunity to be able to take on the position of sheriff in Laramie County. One of the things that I would do is increase the contact between the sheriff's office and the citizens themselves. I would have a deputy whose sole job is to review and act upon citizens' complaints. I would also have another deputy whose job would be to deal with the legal community, the judges, the different attorneys in town, and as far as, writs of replevin, forced entries and detainers, things of that nature. The civil division does that at the current time, and if they're like most other sheriff's offices, they're pretty busy. This one particular individual, that's what they would do, is any complaints, they would coordinate with the civil division and work those things out. The other thing I would look at too, and automated phone systems drive me crazy. I would love to return to, and if it's possible, I would return to when you call 633-4700, you get a live person.
Okay, thank you. You get the final word, Sheriff Cliff.
I hate phone trees, but I hate smartphones. I didn't even like flip phones. And you see how that worked out. My life is here, 24 hours a day, 365. For 15 plus years, I've carried this phone and be able to answer back. Now sometimes I can't, sometimes I'm sitting in a meeting. But trust me when I tell you, you will get a call from me if you call me. You are my life. I said that earlier. Law enforcement is my life. I want to run again because I've still got more to give, and you're worth it. Every one of you that sits here. Those that travel through, those that may come to visit, and those people that come to visit our community, i.e. Frontier Days, the pancake breakfast. When I'm standing down there at a traffic post with a uniform shirt on and I get to greet them, I believe that the deputies of the Laramie County Sheriff's Office represent us well, and we should be proud of them. We should support them, and we should work to pay them for what they're worth. Thank you. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be here and everybody that stayed to listen.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, we're going to take a couple of minutes to set up, and next we have District Attorney.